Good morning, everyone. It is 12 noon, so we'll go ahead and get started. We still have some folks joining us. Thank you so much for being here today. I'll try to. Um, this morning, we are here for the Noontime series with Aging Together, and we are grateful to Virginia Medicare Patrol for their all-event sponsorship of Aging Together this year, and particularly for the Noontime series. This is the first of a four-part series that will be taking place and taking a look at common scams affecting seniors and how to avoid them. And we are particularly honored to have Sean Smith with us today. Sean is our speaker, and he is the state director for the Virginia Senior Medicare Patrol. So I would say an expert in this area, and we're really grateful, Sean, to have you with us today. We are recording this morning, and just one quick note of housekeeping. I think most of you have already, but if you don't mind muting your mic, it's a little easier for everyone to hear. And then I'm sure that Sean will take questions along the way, and you can unmute at that time. So thank you so much, and welcome, Sean. Thank you so much for being here.
Great. Thank you so much for having me. I thank all of you guys for jumping on. As Ms. Anna said, I'm Sean Smith. I'm the state director for the Virginia Senior Medicare Patrol, and I'm delighted to be part of this series. And we're going to go ahead and get started. I think we have only an hour, so I'm going to, if you give me a moment, I will share my screen, and we'll jump right in. All righty. Can everyone see my screen here?
Looks good.
Okay, great. All right, great. So as I said today, we're going to talk about avoiding common scams. This is one of the presentations that we do, the many presentations that we do for the Virginia Senior Medicare Patrol. And just by way of agenda, we're going to talk about the S&P, or the Senior Medicare Patrol. We're going to look at the common scams that we've seen.
Sean, you're muted.
Can you hear me now?
There, yes, thank you. Thank you.
Okay, no problem. Let's see. Let's get you back to where I belong. Here we go. Can you still hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, great. Awesome. So as I was saying, the mission of the Senior Medicare Patrol is to empower seniors, their family members, as well as their caregivers to prevent, detect, and report healthcare errors, healthcare fraud, and healthcare abuse. And we do that through outreach, we do that through education, and we do that through one-on-one counseling. The program itself is sponsored by the Department of Health and Human Services, and it lives under an administration they call the Administration for Community Living, and they provide grants to all 50 states to run this program. And so in Virginia, the organization that received the grant is called the Virginia Association of Area Agencies on Aging. And so there are actually 25 area agencies on aging, if you guys are familiar with Encompass or maybe familiar with the Valley program on aging or any of the local area agencies on aging. There are actually 25 agencies around the state of Virginia. And currently, although the slide says we partner with 22, we currently partner with 24 of those agencies, and which means that each of those agencies, we have paid as well as volunteer staff that help us run the Senior Medicare Patrol program. And so in those agencies, those paid and volunteer staff, they do community outreach, which means that they go out into the communities, they set up tables, and they give out resources to seniors to make sure that they learn a little bit about fraud and hopefully protect themselves. But we also do educational programming. So programs just like this, we like to show up at various places, whether it's working with Aging Together. We go to churches, we go to NARF meetings, we go to AARP meetings, we go to triad meetings. If there are sorority groups or women's groups or fraternity groups or what have you, we love to show up. We even say that we'll show up at your cookout if you want to share your hot dogs and hamburgers with us. We want to make sure seniors get this information. And then also we do one-on-one counseling. So we have a 1-800-fraud hotline where seniors can call and get free assistance if they feel like they're a victim of scams. And then finally, we like to give out community resources. So as I said earlier, we'll show up at community spaces and give out resources. But also, if you reach out to us, you can reach out to us on our website and you can ask for specific resources and we will send them to you for free. If you've got an event coming up or you've got some people that you want to share this information with, just call us and tell us how many items or what items you need. We can ship to you 5 items, we can ship to you 100 or 105 items. But in any case, you just let us know, and those resources are all going to be free. So that's the Senior Medicare Patrol. We're going to jump into some of the common scams we've been seeing affecting seniors over the last few years. And individually, we're going to look at what we call government imposter scams, followed by grandparent scams, romance scams, tech scams, and then text and email scams. So we're going to go first with what we call government imposter scams. And these are scams where people are seeking to impersonate members of the US government or government agencies. And so we've seen individuals impersonate organizations like Medicare. One of the big Medicare scams that we see is people will get phone calls and they'll be asked, did you get your new Medicare card? Well, if you ask that question to seniors, every senior is going to say no to that because Medicare is not giving out new cards. The scammers will then start to convince the senior or try to convince the senior that Medicare has a new plastic card or has a new gold card or has a new platinum card that has all these extra benefits. And they'll say that we can get that card to you. All we need you to do is verify your Medicare number, which means they want you to give them your Medicare number. The reason they want this number is because the number is valuable. It's attached to all of your benefits. And so they can take that number and they can either sell it to someone or they might use it to submit false claims to Medicare and get paid for those claims. And so if they sell it to someone, they might do the same thing. And so they want that number from you. If you're savvy and you say, I don't feel comfortable giving out that number, then what the scammers will do is they'll start to threaten you. They say, well, if you don't give us this number, if you don't verify your number, then you won't get your new card. They'll claim that your old card is no longer working and that you won't have access to your benefits. You'll have to pay for things out of pockets, all of which is a scam because Medicare, again, is just not arbitrarily giving out new cards. We've also seen these scammers impersonate the Social Security Administration. What they'll do is they'll call individuals on the phone and they'll tell them that they're the Social Security Administration and that they have they're investigating something associated with their account and they need your help, but they first need you to verify your social security number. And of course, most people know that you don't share that number, you don't verify that number with individuals. But what they'll then say is, well, if you don't share that number or verify that number with us, we're going to assume that you're part of this thing that we need to investigate. And so we can shut down your social security number. We can have you arrested. We can bring you in for questioning. And that scares some people. So they start to participate with this particular scam by sharing their social security number. And of course, it's going to be a scam they're working with. And then we've seen them, scammers impersonate the Internal Revenue Service. And they impersonate these government agencies because we don't have a lot of interaction with them. So when they call, we feel like they might be official. With the IRS scam, they tell the senior over the phone that they are late or delinquent on some tax or some fine or some bill, and that they need to pay that bill immediately. And so in saying so, seniors will get upset or uptight and start to get riled up. And they say, well, don't worry, we're here to help you pay that bill. All we need you to do is They'll ask you to pay by a few methods: wire transfer, money order. But what's been really popular is Bitcoin and gift cards. Gift cards have been really popular with seniors. And so they'll tell the senior, all you need to do is go down to Lowe's or Target or Walmart, pick up X amount of gift cards, put this money on it, call us back, and give us the numbers off the back of that gift card. Sometimes they will stay on the phone with the senior while they get in their car and drive to the location that they specify, buy the gift cards, and then immediately get those numbers off the back. And of course, again, it's a scam. IRS is not really calling them, and there's no fine or anything due. So those are the three big, what we call government imposter scams. These were big a few years ago. They still are reaching out to seniors specifically around the Medicare scam because every year the new seniors getting on Medicare and end up falling for this particular scam. So when we talk about these scams, we talk about ways to prevent, detect, and report these scams. One thing we tell seniors to do is not answer unsolicited calls. When we talk about unsolicited calls, these are the calls that come to your phone. If you have caller ID, there's just a number that show up. You don't recognize the number. You're not expecting a phone call. And the number just doesn't look familiar to you. And so we say, don't answer those calls. Let those calls go to voicemail and screen that particular call. Most likely, if it's going to be a scammer or a salesperson, two people that you don't want to talk to. Now, in many circles, some seniors will tell me, well, Sean, I'm sitting at home. I don't mind answering the phone. I harass them when they get on the phone. I blow a whistle in their ear, or I might have one gentleman told me he had an air horn that he keeps by the phone. But here's what we know. We know these scammers are getting your information from various places. Sometimes there are bad actors in good places, meaning there are people in doctors' offices or other offices that are selling your information from that office. They've been prosecuted for things like that. Sometimes we know that there are data breaches that happen. And we've all gotten those letters that says some of your data may have been breached. And they'll tell you exactly what that data looks like. But again, that's where scammers are getting that information. That's someone breaking into someone's computer system and stealing information. But then sometimes they're getting that information legitimately. If we've ever read a privacy policy, some of those privacy policies will tell us that, hey, we sell your information or give your information to our partners or our marketeers. And so people can buy that data from people called data brokers, and those are all legal individuals. But if I'm a scammer and I get a million phone numbers, the first thing I'm going to try to figure out is which of these numbers are legitimate and who can I scam? I can only scam the people that pick up the telephone. So I'm going to start making phone calls and I'm going to hope that someone picks up. And when someone picks up, I put a star next to that phone number because I know that someone lives there and someone picks up that telephone. So what am I going to do? One, I'm going to call that number back over and over and over again because this is someone I can possibly scam, but also that number is now more valuable. So now I'm going to sell that number to other scammers. And so every time you pick up, you're verifying that you are a potential scam victim, and you're going to start perpetuating more and more and more phone calls to your home. So we say, don't answer unsolicited calls. Let those calls get screened. What we also say is don't automatically trust your caller ID. There's a technology that's called spoofing, where they can make the phone number that's calling you look like almost any number they want. And so if you've seen, I'm sure we've all seen this, where the phone number coming in has the same area code as ours, and sometimes maybe even the first three-digit exchange as ours, making us think that maybe this is someone familiar or someone that we know, someone that we didn't program into our phone. If you're like me, you may have even had your own phone number calling you at some point. I've had that happen. I've looked at the phone. I got really confused because I recognized the number, but it just took me a minute for it to register. Like, wait, that's my phone number. Or if you've ever called one of these numbers back, you probably called a neighbor that you don't know around the corner saying, hey, someone called me from this number. And they're like, well, no one called you from this number. This is my phone. And, you get to this back and forth. Or maybe someone's called you and said that you called them. But that comes from spoofing, where they can make that number look like any number they want. Now, they got really good at this in 2021, where they actually spoofed the Social Security Administration. And so people were getting phone calls from an 800 number, and underneath that number, it said Social Security Administration. So people were picking up the phone thinking they're talking to someone from the SSA when really they're talking to a scammer, and unfortunately giving out information they should not be giving out. And for that reason, we remind seniors that government agencies don't call you. The IRS doesn't call, Social Security Administration doesn't call, and Medicare doesn't call. If you call them and you get a call back, that is one way they do call, but they're not going to give you an unsolicited phone call. And so if you get a call from someone claiming to be from one of those agencies, you can hang up because 100% you're going to know that it's going to be a scammer. So those are the government imposter scams. The next type of scam that we see affecting seniors, and you guys may have all heard of this, is called the grandparent scam. And this is where scammers are seeking to get money out of individuals, claiming to help a grandchild that might be in trouble. And so the way that the scam works is that basically they call saying that your grandchild is in trouble, or it may be a voice that pretends to be your grandchild. And so they'll call and they'll say, Grandma or Granddad, I need some help. And what the grandparent usually does is like, they say, Jimmy, is that you? Or Missy, is that you? And they say, yes, it's me. And they claim to need money. But they also claim that they're calling the grandparent because they don't want to tell the parents because the parents are going to get them in trouble. They don't want to get in trouble. They just need grandma or granddad to help. And so the grandparent sometimes is kind of, taken in by the fact that they called me instead of their parents. And so they just really want to help the child. And then they might ask for money by some crazy method. It could be that I've gotten in trouble. I need you to send money to my lawyer. Here's the phone number. Call them. They'll tell you how to get them the money. Or they may say to wire transfer it or to send it by money order, maybe even use a gift card. In some cases, they've asked quote unquote a courier to come pick up the cash. But in any case, they want the grandparent to keep this a secret, but they also want the grandparent to somehow get money to the person or that they're indicating. And so this is a scam that's been really, really popular, and a lot of seniors have fallen for it. We've seen seniors give away upwards of $8, $9, $10,000, thinking that they're helping their grandchild get out of trouble some type of way. Again, it may be a fake grandchild calling or someone calling on behalf of the grandchild saying that the child has been in an accident and they're in the hospital and you were the number that came up and we're hoping that you can help them. But in any case, the grandparent seems to fall for the scam thinking they're really helping their grandchild. And so, what we say to seniors as relates to this scam is if you get a call similar to this, whatever you do, you don't want to call the grandchild's name. Once you say, Jimmy, is that you? Or Missy, is that you? Then you're actually giving the scammer the name that's associated with your grandchild. They say, oh, yes, it's me, Jimmy, or yes, it's me, Missy. So you don't want to call their name. You want to try to figure out as best as you can who's on the phone and who might be calling you. If they can't tell you who they are, then obviously it's not going to be your grandchild. If they're calling quote unquote on behalf of your grandchild, you want to ask to speak to that grandchild directly. And a lot of times they're going to make up all types of excuses why they can't get your grandchild on the phone, but that should be a red flag to you, especially if the parents aren't involved. Another thing we say is to prepare for this because seniors, like I said, are getting duped by this quite often. Talk to your grandchildren now and say, let's get a code word so that if something happens and you're in trouble, this is the code word that we share with each other. It could be something as simple as purple scarf or pineapple, but somehow get a code word so that only you and the grandchild know that. And that way, if they're in trouble, they can say, Grandma, it's me. The code word's pineapple or whatever that might be. It sounds kind of clandestine, but this is kind of the world we live in now. And then also, we say call the grandchild on their own personal device. A lot of some grandparents have gotten this phone call and they haven't trusted it. And so they call Jimmy or they call the granddaughter only to find out that they're exactly where they're supposed to be. They're in bed or they're in class or they're out with their friends and that there's no scam going on and able to keep themselves out of the scam. If you guys have seen any of the stories on television about this, again, it's something that's very popular that seniors have fallen into and unfortunately become something that they can lose a lot of money to. The other thing that we say is don't keep it a secret. If a child is in trouble and they call you first, the parents also have a right to know. But also, when we get upset, when we get a little flustered, a lot of times it's great to have another voice, another calm voice to help us kind of work through and talk about the issues that might be going on so that we make great decisions. And so, whether it's sending money first or making some phone calls or verifying things, having another voice is super important, but also the parents have a right to know. Um, and so, those are the grandparent scams. The next type of scams that we see are what we call romance scams. Now, a lot of folks are thinking, oh, romance scams, I would never really fall for something like that. Unfortunately, a lot of people that say they would not fall for it are the ones that end up falling for it because they think they're in love. Love is a powerful, powerful emotion. And so this is a scam where scammers seek to get money through romantic relationships. And so the way the scam works is it often takes place either starting online on some social media site or some of these dating apps, but someone will meet someone else and they claim that someone else will claim to live or work in remote places. They may say that I'm in the army and I live abroad, or maybe I work on an oil rig, or maybe I just live across the country. But they say they work in remote places, which prevents them from doing things like video chatting or doing FaceTime calls, and it resorts them to only doing things like text messages and maybe phone calls. But when these two individuals meet, the scammer then starts to fall in love with this person very quickly. The relationship starts to move really, really fast. And they may stay in that relationship for a long time before any of the scamming actually starts to take place. But these individuals, they fall in love quickly on these apps or on the phone. And they do that by having this very similar sob story. If there's a widow, then, oh, his wife died also, or my husband had cancer and he passed away. Oh, my wife had cancer as well. Wasn't that a terrible process? And they start to commiserate and start to develop this bond with one another. And then slowly over time, either directly or indirectly, the scammer starts to ask for money. And so that could look something as simple as they're asking you directly to pay a bill or to help them with some type of expense, or it could be indirect. Oh gosh, my mom is really in trouble and it's just terrible. I need to get money to her. I just can't figure out how to do it. And the person that they are scamming says, "Oh, well, I can help you with that. Why don't I just send this money this way or do that?" And so people start to get pulled into this scam. Again, asking money over time. What we've heard is that some of these scammers will actually be in a relationship with these individuals for months up to years before they actually start asking for money. And so at that point, they've got the person locked in. And people, because they are in need of companionship, they appreciate being appreciated, but also appreciate maybe some of the compliments they're being given. They will maintain these relationships, like I said, over the phone or via text message or through these apps for years and years because it is satisfying one of their needs. And so when we talk about these scams and how to prevent, detect, and report them, what we say is you always want to be cautious of anyone you can't meet in person. One of the things that these scammers do to kind of keep these people engaged is they'll claim that, hey, I'm going to come visit you. And they'll have a date in mind. They'll claim to have bought a plane ticket. And just at the last minute, they'll break that promise and they can't come see you. And so they'll get another date on the calendar. And so this type of baiting the individual keeps them engaged in the relationship, thinking that, oh, something came up. It's not a big deal. We'll just schedule something else. But that becomes a pattern for the relationship. And so you always want to be careful of someone you can't meet in person. You also want to be careful of someone that looks too good to be true. And what I mean by that is a lot of times, again, these relationships start on dating apps or they start on some of these social media sites. And the person that falls in love with them looks like a model in every picture. They have these model photos that you would think that, oh my gosh, this model, this 10 is interested in me. And people get enamored by that. And so a lot of times they're pulling the scammers are pulling those images from the internet from other people, and it's really not who they are. They're catfishing them, and they use this pattern where they look too good to be really true. But those are the people that individuals are attracted to, and that's how they end up falling in the scam. The truth be told, they're never really scamming one person at a time. They're often scamming 5 or 6 different people at the same time because people are drawn to them from these photos that they have online. You want to be cautious of anyone who continually breaks promises. Again, going back to, hey, I'm coming out to see you. Oh my gosh, I can't make it this week. Something came up at work and I've got to stay put. Let's schedule another date. And so that continual, I'm making a promise, I'm breaking a promise. This is true in a romance scam. It's true in regular relationships. If your partner continues to break promises, that should be a red flag. And then anyone who starts to ask for money over time, especially if any of these other things are true, if they can't meet in person, if they break promises, and then they start to ask for money, that should send up a lot of red flags. Now, as I said earlier, a lot of people, think, oh, it could never be me. I would never fall for these romance scams. But I think sometimes we've all met people and know people who've been in relationships where we've always had question marks about the person they're dating. And we try to convince them that, hey, maybe this is not the right guy. And they're convinced that there's everything great about this person. Or, hey, maybe this girl is really just after your money. And you can't convince them otherwise. And it's really that easy, especially when people think they're in love. And so I don't want people to think that, this is something that I can't be a victim of. If you're in a dating capacity or in a dating scene, you always want to be careful about who you might meet in person or might meet as part of a romantic potential. Um, One of the other things that these scammers might do is they may not be after your money directly, but they might ask you to go into business with them. And the way that looks, we had actually the FBI come and train some of our team members. We do that each year. And one year, what they shared with us was they were tracking an older woman. She was in her early to mid 60s, and she had met this individual online that she referred to as her boyfriend. And so he asked her to help him with her business. And so he was shipping her items, and her job was to uh, repackage them and ship them wherever he told her to. And so she's getting these items and shipping them off. And so what she did not realize was the items that she was receiving were stolen items. The FBI got hip to the young man or the individual who was scamming this woman, and they went to her and they said, ma'am, we know that you're part of this individual that you are helping is a scammer, he's a criminal. And the woman would not believe it. She kept saying, this is my boyfriend. I'm just helping him with his business. There's nothing wrong with this. And so they were tracking him. They were at the same time trying to convince her that she needed to stop this behavior because she was actually contributing to the scam. This went on for a couple of years to the point where they actually had to arrest this older woman because she would not stop participating in the scam with this particular individual. And so, again, meeting someone on one of these apps, they're asking to go in business with you or maybe even to invest with them, you could be setting yourself up potentially to be dealing with a scammer. So that's the romance scams. I will just say one other thing. Seniors that lose money to romance scams reported by the that have reported it to the FTC, those numbers are really high, up in the 80 millions, excuse me, 80 billions that people have lost. And those are just the people that report it. When you think about these scams happening and the people that don't report it out of embarrassment or out of disbelief, those numbers go even higher. And so, folks that have reported these scams, again, $80 billion being lost to scams like this. The next type of scam we're going to look at is what we call tech scams. And so this is when people are impersonating technology companies to try to convince seniors that they're helping them. And they're doing this, of course, to get money out of the seniors. And so this type of scam really popped up quite proliferated quite a bit during COVID, when a lot of seniors who were not tech savvy started to get online and to do things like Zoom and to socialize when we were all locked down. And so the way this scam works, they might get a phone call or an email, or maybe even a pop-up comes up on their computer claiming there's a problem with their computer. The pop-up might pop up and say, "Hey, you've got a virus, call this number." Or they may get a phone call claiming to be from Microsoft or Apple saying, "Hey, we're looking at the back end of your computer and there's a virus on it." Or you might get an email that might say the same thing. And they give the senior a number to call. Of course, none of these numbers are going to be official numbers. These are numbers that are going right to the scammers department or wherever the scammer is coming from. And most likely it's going to be 800 number of some type. So they claim there's a problem with the computer, and they claim that they can help them fix the problem remotely. And so what they might convince the senior to do is say, "Hey, we can help you fix this. It's going to cost you X amount of dollars." And they may give the senior a way to pay for this. They may ask for payment via putting their credit card into something online, or maybe cash apping or Venmoing them some money, or somehow sending them some type of payment. They could charge them $100, they could charge them $300. The other thing they might do is send them a software packet, quote unquote, where they have to click on the link that downloads this package that's supposedly going to clean up the virus. The problem is, once they click and load that software, it actually is malware that allows them to maybe see what's on their computer, or follow their keystrokes, or maybe even download information to their personal computers so that they can break into seniors' various sites, whether it's their banking account site or whether it is their insurance sites. But it allows them to pull that data off the senior's computer. Or what they also might do is ask for remote access to the senior's computer. And what that does, it allows the scammers to see what's on their computer in real time. So they're looking at the seniors, what's showing up, just like you guys are doing now, where I'm sharing my screen. It allows them to do that remotely, where they're seeing what the senior's doing on their personal screen. And so they can see things like passwords or usernames, and log into accounts with the seniors, or when the seniors don't know, or even have access to do it on their own, stealing that information from the senior's computer. And so, again, this kind of popped up, and a lot of seniors were falling for this. They were losing money, but also people had access to the computer when it wasn't something they should be doing. And so what we tell seniors now is, people can't see what's happening on your computer remotely unless you give them access and permission. So if someone calls you and says, "Hey, we see what's going on your computer," more than likely that's going to be a lie. And so if they tell you that something is, they tell you that something's going on and we can help you with it, more than likely, again, that's going to be a lie. If something pops up on your screen that tells you, "Oh, your computer's locked up, call this number," never call that number. Go to a trusted number. If you have a Microsoft device, call Microsoft. If it's a Dell device, call Dell. If it's an Apple, call Apple. But don't call the number that they give you, because, of course, that number is going to be a fraudulent number. Don't give remote access to people that you don't know from an unsolicited request. Meaning, if you didn't call Apple and say, "Hey, Apple, I'm having a problem," when Apple does Apple Care, a lot of times they ask and request that they give you that you give them remote access. Because you called Apple and you know who you're calling, then that's going to be legitimate. But if they call you and want remote access, you definitely want to refuse that, because again, you're actually giving them access to your computer, and then they can see things and deal with things on your computer that you might not want them to see and work with. If you see something that pops up, or you're not familiar with the link, or people want to send you something to download and you're not expecting it and you don't know what it is, you don't want to click on those things. A lot of times you could be downloading malware to your computer that allows people access to your computer. And that's exactly what you want to avoid. You don't want to give people access to your computer, but also you don't want that malware on there, because that might give them information from your computer without giving them access to it, that they can use to steal your money and get access. And so tech scams, again, people are not going to be able to see what's on your computer. If they call you and tell you that, you can know that you're probably dealing with a scammer. Okay, and then finally, the last type of scam we're going to talk about are going to be text and email scams. I'm sure we've all gotten text messages from scammers telling us that our tolls haven't been paid, or we may have gotten many emails that tell us, hey, there's a problem with our accounts. But this is where scammers are using text and emails to get money or get access to devices or even maybe steal information from you. And so, as these scams, like I said, sometimes you get a random text or random email that are phishing for information. They want you to update your credit card information, and they give you a link to go to the update this information. Of course, this link doesn't go to an official site that you might really have a relationship with. It goes to a fake scammer site where you're giving them credit card information, or you might have to do your username and password. And then you're actually then giving that information right over to a scammer who can then use it to scam you. They may be impersonating familiar vendors or companies that you work with. I often get information from organizations that are impersonating Amazon. I have an Amazon Prime account, and so they want to send me information, making me believe that they are Amazon and that I've got to update information. But typically, it's an urgent request. Something really important is happening. If you don't act now or act fast, you're going to lose access, or you're going to acquire fines or fees. And so that's a telltale sign that a red flag should go up that, wait a minute, something's wrong. And before I act fast, let me slow down and think. Um, like I said, they're often asking you to update information, credit card information, usernames and passwords, information that if they had that information, they could access your account, access your money, access your services. And again, they may be sending a link or a download. A lot of the text message scams that come in have a link for you to go to. And when you press that link, you never really know where it's going. You could be going somewhere, or it could be downloading information or malware to your computer or your device, which again gets you in trouble because that could be giving them access to your device. So, all of that to say, what we tell seniors is be cautious and slow down with urgent requests. If it's really urgent, then you do want to think about it. You don't want to act fast. You want to make sure that you're doing the right thing and that you're researching to make sure that what you're actually going to do is going to be the right thing rather than something that's going to get you involved in a scam. Again, don't click on links or downloads. If you don't know who it's coming from and you want more information, do not click on that link to get more information. Go online to a website and research, hey, could this be a scam? You can type in what they're asking and then type scam. And then what will pop up will be some information about it in most cases. Uh, don't provide sensitive information to anyone, especially people that might call you or maybe even text you and ask you for it via email. A lot of times, if we've gotten any of these data breach letters, what those letters will tell us often is what the scammers have accessed. They'll tell us things like they may have gotten away with your email address and maybe your phone number, or they may have gotten away with your username and your password. They're very specific. And so, what these scammers will do is they will take the information they do have and try to use that information to convince you that they are valid. So they'll say, Mrs. Jones, we see here that you still live at such and such address. And we know that this is your current email address. And then they'll try to get you to fill in the blanks that they don't have. Do you still use XYZ vendor? Or do you still, or they may give you a wrong address or wrong date, and then you end up correcting them and giving them the right date. And so if you don't know who you're talking to, you don't want to provide any information to them because you could be filling in the blanks and giving them more information. And of course, the more information they have about you, the easier it is for them to scam you. Um, if you see something that wants to direct you to their own account, for example, they give you a link to a page. Again, you want to research that page on your own and go to it outside of the link that they give you. If they say that they are with the government or a government account and follow this link to get to the page where you update this information, you never want to follow that link. You want to get out of that page, go to start a new page, research to find out where that actual page is, and then see if there's information on an account that you need to update on that actual page. That could be a government site, it could be any type of vendor that you work with, or any type of merchant that you buy things from. You want to go to the actual site rather than clicking on a link and following what they want you to do. So those are the five biggest types of scams that we see. And of course, they're all called imposter scams. And these are scams where people are impersonating or pretending to be someone else. And with that, I want to ask, are there any questions about any things that we discussed?
We have a couple of questions in the chat here. The first one was just asking, will we receive a copy of the presentation? And I'll answer that one. The presentation is being recorded and will be available on the agingtogether.org website. The next one, Sean, was clarifying when you said FTC, was that the Federal Trade Commission?
Yes, I'm so sorry. Yes, it is the Federal Trade Commission. For those of you who are not familiar, the FTC is, of course, a government agency, and they collect data about things around, about information about scams and issues involving people of all ages. And what they do is they use that information from people that report that information to help Congress figure out what laws and what policies have passed to help protect us against scams. And so they're not an investigative agency, meaning if you call them and report something that's happened to you, they're not going to investigate on your behalf. They just collect that information to help them understand how scammers are affecting people and impacting individuals, and in what ways they are connecting with individuals. So that helps them to, again, inform Congress so that they can write policy. So thank you for that. I apologize for just using the initials.
Oh, no, that's great. The next question here is, do virus protection programs detect all malware? And part two of that question, what about downloads to a phone?
Great questions. So does virus protection software protect all malware? Um, all is a huge amount, and the answer for all is no, it does not. Um, Having virus protection is great for your computer. What I will also say is great is when your computer sends you updates. Most of those updates that come through your computer are coming with critical virus protection updates. And so, as these companies, Apple, Microsoft, whoever's building computers, the computer manufacturers, as they learn about different ways that scammers are creating hacks to get into computers, they are creating fixes, and they're sending those fixes through this software update. And so whenever you have a software update, you want to do that as quickly as possible, because those are protection updates for your devices. And then having some other type of virus detection on your computer is always super helpful, but nothing's going to be as helpful as your company, your manufacturer's software updates. Great question.
Um,
Was and did I
what
answer the second part to that? Was there
I,
a second?
I think you did. What about downloads to a phone? I
Oh,
think
so
you did. Yeah.
yeah, so downloads to your phone, I would say restrict your downloads to your phone specifically to the app store produced by your manufacturer. So I have an Apple phone, and so the Apple App Store is the only place I get those any downloads, like any new apps or any new applications. If you have an Android, I think there's an Android store. Only use those stores, because, of course, they're going to vet those applications that are coming into your phone, and they're most likely going to be free and clear of any of the viruses or anything that might be malware. Getting some applications from random websites or from clicked links inside of text messages or people you don't know, you can't guarantee that that's going to be safe. So certainly using those app stores are always, and I'm saying always because I can't think of a situation where I've heard that those app stores have sent malware yet, but definitely that's going to be the safest option. Great question.
And then someone asks, so who do you call to investigate, and does the fraud hotline investigate?
Great question. So, the fraud hotline that we have is focused on healthcare fraud, because we're the Senior Medicare Patrol. And so we deal directly with healthcare fraud. So if you have a situation where you might get an EOB, an explanation of benefits, or Medicare summary notice that has incorrect information or fraudulent information, or something that just seems questionable to you. We help with things like that. If you go to a doctor's office and something feels funny about what's happening there, we deal with those types of frauds. It doesn't necessarily have to be Medicare if that's the only insurance you have, or you might have a Medicare Advantage plan. So anything healthcare related for seniors, we can help with. If you have a fraud where some of these other frauds that we talked about today, you get caught up in that. Reporting it to the FTC is important, as well as contacting, if you lose money, contacting law enforcement, getting help with that. Sometimes contacting a lawyer if you know who committed the fraud and how to connect with them. Uh, Many times it's difficult to get money back. If you've given money from your financial institution, or there's a financial institution involved, a bank or a credit union, contacting them can be helpful as well as your credit card company, just depending on the type of fraud that's happening. The police officers or the police, they're limited in what they can do, especially if you don't know who has defrauded you and you can't contact them. Having a police report is really important, but it doesn't always help to really get money back or, initiate an investigation, which is why it's important just to be really careful because when you get a phone number and you call that number back and you can't access someone, then that makes it really difficult to trace or track or bring back money. One other thing I'd love to say about losing money is a lot of the frauds happen and you know that you're dealing with the fraudster because of the way they ask for you to pay for things. We typically pay for things by cash, by check, by credit card, or by debit card, right? Those are the four main ways. But when they start to ask you to pay for it obscure methods like wire transfers, like money orders, like Bitcoin or gift cards, you're almost 99.9% of the time going to be dealing with the scammer. The reason they ask for those types of payments is because when you send money by those payments, it makes it almost impossible to trace where that money's going, what makes it almost impossible to get that money back. And so your red flags should go up if they ask for any payment by one of those obscure methods. Again, it's going to be wire transfer, money order, Bitcoin, or gift card. Hope that's helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, so the next question is from a caller in Chesapeake. Can you come talk to my senior group? And basically, if so, how do I contact you?
Absolutely. We would love to come talk to your senior group. You can reach out, you can go on our website and go on our contact page and just send a contact email that comes right to my email address, and we can start a dialogue that way and figure out a date and a time and where to come. Or you can call the 800 number that's on the screen right now. That rings to our 1-800 hotline. You leave your name, your phone number, we'll give you a call back, and we will make sure that we get connected with you. And we'd love the opportunity.
Thank you. And then another question, a follow-up to the previous. So any unsolicited link could be a malware download. That's a
Great
question.
question. And the answer is yes. Any unsolicited link could very seriously be a malware download. I would love to add to that a couple of things. You probably are familiar with what we call jump drives, the little drives that you put into your computer, USB drives. And you probably heard that if you find one of those, never stick them into your computer because you could be putting a virus or something onto your computer unaware. So if you find one, do not think, oh, I got a free one. Let me just stick it in my computer and use it. People have left those things around intentionally because there's malware on there, hoping people will stick it into the computer and they steal information. The other part to that is QR codes. If you see a random QR code, do not just scan it. That is another way that scammers are now, people will go to that site and unawares start a download of information or download of malware onto their device, whether it's their phone or whether it's on their computer. And so if you see a random QR code, you don't know what it's for. In fact, there's a scam that's starting now where people will get a box in the mail. And in that box will be some little trinket and it'll be a QR code. And people are thinking, well, I wonder who sent this. Oh, if I scan the QR code, I'll find out more about it. And really what it is the scammer has sent that to you. But when you scan that code, it allows them to pull information off of your device. So yes, any link could be malware, any QR code random that you're not familiar with and you don't know where it goes to, or you don't know the person that's producing it, and then any jump drive that you might find randomly could be something dangerous.
Mhm. Thank you. So there are no more questions in the chat, but a couple of comments. This is very helpful. Thanks. Thanks for the presentation and excellent tips. And then someone else saying, yes, QR codes are dangerous, important to know. Does anyone, we have a few minutes. If anyone has any additional questions, or if you'd like to ask in person, you can unmute yourself and ask as well if you prefer not to put something in the chat. Any other questions?
President Donald Trump's posting of an AI-generated image showing him dressed as the
Is someone, I hear
not a cat.
something online, but I'm not sure if it's, okay. Well, thank you so much.
And do you mind if I
Yes,
just want to say,
no, please,
if please
please.
go to our website, virginiasmp.com. There's some resources on there. There's some tips that we give about fraud or things, ways you can protect yourself. We also look for volunteers to help with the program if you have interest in that. And then also there are things you can just download offline or reach out to us and let us know that you want a presentation, or maybe even get some resources from us. We'll have those things shipped to you. But we want to make sure that you guys are aware that this is a service that is free for everyone. And we love for you to share the information about the S&P as you can. We also have a blog site that we send out a blog 3 times a week that comes straight to your email box. It tells you about some of the common scams that are happening. So feel free to sign up for that as well.
Yeah, thank you. And S&P will be at the Culpeper Art of Aging Expo, October 17th, October 14th, I'm sorry, if you are in the Culpeper area. And then also check back for the next 3 sessions on Aging Together's website. As I mentioned at the beginning, this is the first of 4 sessions. The next session will be on June 17th, so you can register again to join and get some more great information. I see a few more comments here. Oh yeah, here is one more question for you. You said you do one-on-one counseling. Can you explain more about that?
Absolutely. So basically, again, calling that 800 number if you feel like you're a victim of a scam. And again, that could be something as simple as I've got my Medicare summary notice, or I've got my explanation of benefits, and something on there looks fraudulent. What some scammers are able to do is they may steal your Medicare number and send in a claim that is a false claim for things like medical supplies or medical services. And you may get that document and say, wait a minute, I didn't have a service on that date, or this doesn't look familiar to me. You can give us a call and we can talk with you about what's happening. And then we can either give you some instructions, we can make some phone calls with you, or we can make some phone calls on your behalf to help you get that particular situation worked out. And if we actually feel like there's actual fraud going on, we send those reports to the Office of the Inspector General, and they do larger investigations based on that information to hopefully catch scammers and keep us all safe.
Wow. Thank you so much. I see here, Fredericksburg Art of Aging Conference is June 11th, if you're in that area. So any other questions or comments? Okay, thank you all for joining us. Sean, thank you so much for being here, as
Thank you for
always.
having me.
Great to have you, and thank you for the wonderful presentation and really excellent information. Yeah. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you.